Welcome to Konoha Crush, a clandestine effort to exhaustively research and document events occurring in and around the village hidden in the leaves. I'm Ruby.
I'm Gwen.
Hey Gwen, how's it been?
Hi, I'm good. It's been alright. Not really up to anything this week.
Yeah, I can't say I've been up to a ton either, really. I mean, like, I've been chilling. I've been hanging out with friends. I've been playing Final Fantasy V, and I think that game's a delight. But, you know, not a ton I feel like compelled to talk about in the podcast. One day I'll watch anime that isn't Naruto again, and hopefully that won't be too long from now. But it didn't really happen this last week for me.
Yeah, I'm not really watching anything new either, like nothing I really feel the need to talk about, which is probably good, because we have 4 episodes today.
We have 4 episodes. Yeah, you know, we have 4 episodes. We won't have 4 episodes again for like a while. I don't know when the next time this will happen is, but we're good for the foreseeable future. We're good for as far as I'm thinking ahead about this.
Yeah. If you don't really have anything you want to talk about, do we just want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure.
Episode 26. Special Report. Live from the Forest of Death. Well, folks, this one sure is a recap episode. It starts off with a fake behind-the-scenes skit where Naruto announces a new time slot and opening. The next part of the episode is framed around Konohamaru and his pals interviewing Naruto outside the Forest of Death before the exam. Then, Sakura explains ninjutsu and the abilities of the other main characters, and Sasuke talks about the other characters and rivals. And we close the whole situation with a scary new ending song.
Yeah, so this is like... This episode is kind of interesting in some regards, in the sense that, like... I mean, rather than being in this sort of, like, traditional position of, like, a recap episode where, due to, like, just pre-scheduled, like, downtime in the production, or, like, needing to buy time for a production that's, like, in a kind of dour place, this is, like... I mean, there was another episode of Naruto that aired, like, immediately after it, when this initially aired on television in Japan. This is, like, you know, to move to a new time slot. We need a special to, like, introduce new audiences to Naruto. I'm going to play that instead of Prince of Tennis this week.
It's kind of funny that that whole setup in the dub was just translated, like, totally straight.
Yeah, I was, like, very curious about that. I was looking into this, because this episode did air on television in America, right? And it, rather than being like an episode that aired immediately before another episode, it aired immediately before the show went on break for a couple months.
Uh-huh.
Like, I have to assume that in the initial broadcast of this, these, like, framing device bits about, like, the behind-the-scenes stuff and about, like, oh, the show started half an hour too soon, so we gotta stall for time while we get the actual episode ready, is, like... I mean, I assume they just didn't air that because, again, this episode was, like, 26 minutes long, which is longer than, you know, an episode that goes in a half-hour time slot on American television is. So I assume that just gets cut and then got newly dubbed for the DVD releases, where they just very directly talked about, like, yeah, we're airing at, it was like 7:30 p.m. now, right after Prince of Tennis or whatever, which is like, it winds up serving as more than just like, here's what happened. It winds up being an attempt, at least, about like introducing the show to, like, you know, people who might not have seen it before. And we'll talk about what it is that, but before we get into that, we got to talk about the opening, just like Naruto says. We got the new opening here.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about this one, Gwen?
I like this one a lot.
It fucking goes, right? It fucking bangs. It's good. It's good. The song is good. The sequence is really good. I'm like...
Like, this is the one that I remember.
This is... Yeah. Like, I think I talked about the first opening back when we talked about that being like, oh yeah, here's like kind of an interesting vision of Naruto that feels sort of like nostalgic and distinct, and like, you know, it's not exactly what Naruto is, but it's like a presentation of an idea. And like, this opening is like, oh, this is Naruto. This is what Naruto is. It's like, it feels so fully formed in its aesthetic sensibilities. It's just kind of like really exciting to see it just like explode onto the screen in that way.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it so much.
Mm-hmm. Just talking about the staff quick. This opening was directed and storyboarded by Toshiki Tsuru, and the animation director on it was Hirofumi Suzuki. We've talked about them before. You know, they did 2 of the episodes at the end of the Land of Waves arc, and they did the first opening also. Yeah, again, I think this is another like really strong representation of like, yeah, this is like a creative duo that like understands and is able to like display the source material in a really appealing way. And another thing that I found kind of like, I guess surprising, because like I remember this opening sequence, but I didn't remember how much of it was like just really static. And I think it works very well in spite of that. I think it does a lot of good work. It's like, yeah, I mean, we only have a few big flashy cuts, but they're placed very well, and they're like paced throughout the... They give the opening a really great sense of pace.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get the really wild cut at the beginning where the camera's kind of like rushing by Team 7 and the angles are really dramatic. That's by Tetsuya Takeuchi, who did the big Zabuza like charging and cutting through all of Gato's goons and then killing Gato cut back in that episode. There's another Tetsuya Takeuchi cut later, which is the one where it zooms in Gaara as he like raises up his hands, and then like it cuts to the rotating shot of like Naruto and Sasuke as like Orochimaru's eyes come into center behind them. And so you got those two moments. You got like a few other bits of like... You got the very brief action highlight bit where, you got Rock Lee who's like kicking a guy. I think Hinata's there. I think there's a third person. I don't remember off the top of my head right away. But like even outside of that, like while the chorus is going, it's still a lot of like pretty static imagery with like just a little like slight bit of movement. I think it's part of that. It has just this really great energy. It has I think a thing it does really well is that there's a lot of like little moments in it where it doesn't quite register how like static it is. Or like where those little like shortcuts are being taken because it's like matched to the music so well, and because like the bits of animation that are so snappy. Like the bit like in the lead up to the chorus where you get the like you get the like various members of different teams like appearing on screen to the beat, like, and then there's like the animation of them in the background, but like usually only like one or two of them are actually animated. But like unless you're like really looking for that, it's a sequence that has like such a like dynamic sense of like matching the music and like just going forward that like it doesn't really stick out that like, oh, one of the characters back there isn't moving, at least to me, unless I'm like trying to pay attention to it. And there's this kind of like really fun like repeated like visual idea throughout the opening. It comes up a couple times where like it happens the cut I talked about before where like it cuts from Gaara to like the rotating shot of Naruto and Sasuke, and like Naruto's rotating to the background while Sasuke rotates into the foreground, and Orochimaru's eyes are like rotating forward to look at Sasuke. And then like it cuts from there to like a shot rotating in the other direction with Naruto front and center, and it does a similar thing towards the end where you got all the various ominous villain shots, and then like we cut to Naruto like standing back up and getting ready to fight. And I think there's like I don't know, I think it plays in a really fun way with the imagery of like, okay, even in the I think it like manages to position Naruto in like a really heroic way very successfully, and I think it's very I think it's very striking. Yeah, do we want to talk about this recap then?
Yeah, we could talk about the recap. Okay,
so the thing that really stands out to me in watching this recap is that at the very least, if I was watching this, if this was the first episode of Naruto I had ever watched, I don't know that I would like Naruto the kid very much. I don't think it gives a very flattering picture of him.
It really doesn't.
Like, you've got like there's some bits that are kind of fun. Like I think it's funny that he's doing his like Sasuke cringe compilation bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like even that's kind of immediately undercut by following up with the and Sakura is so in love with me bit that's just obnoxious. And like there's not really a single moment of there's not really a single moment that communicates why you might like Naruto unless you like it when a character is dumb and obnoxious.
Yeah, and like I feel like at this point in the show, Naruto has had more growth than that.
Yeah, so it's weird to see that. I mean, like it's weird to see that it displays Naruto in this way, especially because like this episode is directed by Hayato Date, who's the series director. It's like written by Katsuyuki Sumisawa, who is like the main series composition guy for this first part of Naruto, and. So it's weird that we've got the central guys here, and the vision they show us of Naruto is like a guy who sucks, and pretty much just the parts of him that suck. Like the thing that was really weird to me is that I don't think they even mentioned that he's got the nine-tailed fox sealed in him at all, and they don't really get into like any of the actual things that drive him as a character. Whereas when it's time to like show like Sasuke and Kakashi, it's like, oh, these guys are fucking cool. But Naruto is just like a joke guy, and this whole thing we don't get any other like representation of him that isn't just it's funny when he does something dumb, and it's just a weird choice for how you would, in theory, be introducing this character to an audience that hasn't seen the show before.
Right, and like I can see I can see where they made the decision to do that in the framing of having it be like an interview with Naruto.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so like he wouldn't necessarily talk about the foxing and like a lot of the other like heavier shit that's been going on in his life.
Yeah, right. Like I get that Naruto isn't a character who knows how to like present himself in the most flattering light, but nobody else is like doing that for him either.
Right, like at that point, then like the question is like, okay, did you make a poor choice of like funny framing device?
Yeah, it's hard. It's really, I guess it's kind of hard for me to see that why this was the approach.
Totally.
Or like why they didn't, try and like, oh, maybe here's a segment where somebody is going to like, where Konohamaru is going to like interview a character who has like a different perspective on Naruto. Like maybe talk to Iruka a bit, or talk to Kakashi a bit,
Yeah. God, can you imagine this episode where it was just all the different characters just talking about Naruto?
Yeah. I mean, you should probably talk about the other guys a little bit, but like, a lot of the episode is dedicated to talking about Naruto, and it doesn't really show the guy's appeal very well, I don't think.
No, it really doesn't.
I don't actually have a ton more to say about the body of the episode. I did get a laugh when it gets to the part where Udon is talking to Sasuke, and Udon's like, "Now Sasuke, whom I feel is like my future self." I think that did get a laugh out of me. That's a pretty funny joke.
It is a pretty good one.
Other than that, I don't know. There's not a ton here to really dig into, other than like what we talked about. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. Should we talk about the ending song?
Yeah, you said this was scary, Gwen. Would you like to elaborate on your feelings about why this is scary to you?
So, the, like, in Sakura, standing at, like, the sides, singing along to the song, like, the way that they're animated, the way they look, it's scary. I don't like it.
It's a little jarring, maybe. It's,
It is, like, deep in the uncanny valley for me.
This is another Toshiki Suru and Hirofumi Suzuki joint. I guess it goes to show they can't all be winners. This is probably one of their weaker sequences on the whole. It's fine, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, like the song's okay, and the rest of the... You know what? Honestly, I could not tell you what is in that big central rectangle.
I don't remember. I mean, does it like change to showing different things? It always washes over me. I'm always like distracted by their kind of like... They're like sort of like paper doll seeming animation that they have.
Yeah, it's scary.
I'm not scared by it, but it is like, it's. I'm curious what exactly if there is something particular about the way this ending was produced that like leads to it looking like that, or it was just this is how they decided to draw it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to find out. Also, you can't tell anybody about this. Nobody can know my weaknesses.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I won't tell anybody about this, but you will upload this to the podcast feed, and I mean, that's fine. None of those people live in the world of Naruto like we do, so they can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's good. So, is that everything we have to say about the recap episode?
I think so.
Okay, good. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Episode 27, The Chunin Exam Stage 2, The Forest of Death. Naruto is getting overexcited before the second exam, so Anko decides to scare him a bit with a knife thrown at his head. This catches the attention of a horrible tongue woman from the village hidden in the grass. Anko moves on to lay out the rules for the survival test, and has the kids sign consent forms because they might die. Everyone takes a minute to look over the consent forms. Sasuke susses out the stakes of the test, Sakura and Ino bicker, and Naruto has a brief run-in with Hinata.
Okay, so you mentioned the horrible tongue woman.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, I'm not really interested in like playing coy and pretending that I don't know this is Orochimaru.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and I guess that there's another thing I feel like I have to talk about, which is that in every version of like every version of this script except for like the official English releases of the anime, or at least in every Japanese and English version of that script, Shiore, who is the tongue character, is referred to as a man, and it was in the English release of the anime that like gendering the character that way was introduced, which is like,
okay.
I'm not going to pretend that the English release of the anime introduces this kind of weird gendered element to Orochimaru's character, where like part of what's supposed to be menacing and scary about him is that like he is playing in that sort of ambiguously gendered space and like crossing those boundaries. But I don't really feel good about the fact that they decided to add another instance of it.
Right.
It's, it's not, I just don't like it.
Yeah, I just don't like it.
The other thing I have up here is I guess maybe there's a lot of people with fucked up snake tongues. But if I was Anko, who like has history with Orochimaru, I would probably be more on edge. I would I would maybe be like a little more immediately suspicious if I saw somebody with like a horrible snake tongue.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of that guy's deal. And also, I assume this is sort of the case where like...
Wait, hold on. Ruby, sorry, can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
You think Anko, of all people, who has history with Orochimaru, would be able to identify a snake in the grass?
Why have you done this?
Proceed.
Okay, this is like, oh, I can't believe they didn't notice this. I can't believe the characters didn't pick up on this. But it is like kind of funny to think about. Like, this is like a disguise for Orochimaru, but also this outfit is pretty much just what Orochimaru wears for the foreseeable future.
Oh yeah.
And I imagine it's just a case of like, oh yeah, the character appeared in disguise at first, and then that just kind of became the character's outfit rather than giving them a new one. But
because we do see later. Jumping ahead a little bit, when Anko like figures out like, oh, it's like this is Orochimaru's doing, like her vision in her head of Orochimaru has like a totally different silhouette.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever see Orochimaru looking like that again, but like I guess I'll be interested to find out.
Yeah,
I feel like this. I feel like this present, like the present appearance for Orochimaru, just kind of gets backfilled when we like see past Orochimaru, but I guess I could be wrong.
Do you think? So like we're bad guys, right? Like, we're operatives in, like, the Konoha crash, like, the whole...
I don't like to think of us as being bad guys, but sure.
Okay, do you think the reason that we're both... part of that is because we're both trans women?
I don't know how to approach this question. Like, are you saying that us being trans women renders us evil in the world of Naruto? Or are you saying that like... we have decided to side with Orochimaru on the grounds of not being cis?
Sure.
Both? Either? Neither?
Yeah.
You can't get more to work with here, Glenn. You really throw me for a loop here.
Yeah, I think because we're not cis, we are evil in Naruto.
Okay. If we hold out for long enough, then I think we could just be like normal people who hang out in the background. But like for now.
Yeah. For now, we're evil.
The other thing I want to point out in this scene just briefly, in the visual release of the manga, we get while it's showing like Shiori walking back to Steam, we get this great image, which is a sequel to the image talked about in the previous episode about the Abumi shirt saying "death" on it.
Holy shit!
Yeah. Which is it is a translator's note that for those who maybe don't see this image themselves, it's a translator's note that reads below an image of a character with a loincloth with some characters on it, says the characters on the loincloth reads crime, which is I love the idea that people are just showing up to the chunin exams like their idea of like trying to put on a tough show is just having like shirts and loincloths and other articles of clothing on that say fucked up shit on them. This is how you like make sure you don't look weak at the chunin exams.
Show up to the fucking SATs with booty shorts that say crime.
Yeah, hell yeah.
How could you possibly lose?
Yeah, I guess moving past that, we get to Anko starting to establish the rules for this test, where it's very quickly revealed that unlike the previous stage, it's fine if you kill people here.
Yeah, it's
normal. I think it's very funny that we get all those scenes in the first test of the Jonin instructors for the Rookie 9 sitting around being like, oh man, I can't believe they got Ibiki Morino for their first test. That guy's like a real torture freak. It's going to be so hard for them. And then they get to the second test and it's like, yeah, go into the woods where people will try to kill you for 5 days. And that's normal to them.
Yeah, go into the woods. What Ibiki said earlier is like kinda not true. As long as it's in the woods, we're not going to look too close at the bodies.
Like, we don't want any of us to be in trouble for being the people who, like, personally failed to prevent, any up-and-coming ninjas from a previous village from dying. So whenever you're, like, taking a test or doing a fight in front of us, we'll be making sure you're not going too far. But if we don't see it, we can't get in trouble. So, like, go wild out there.
Yeah, and you all signed the form.
You all signed the form, or else you're not going to take the test. So, like, I don't know, make your peace with that. They just got their big rousing speech about, like, how they had to be okay with death from, like, a psychological manipulation expert himself. So, like, presumably they're all pretty well primed for this.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. Hey, remember how the village hidden in the mist was, like, sickos for having their kids kill each other?
Like, they kill each other at a younger age over there.
Yeah, okay.
That's what makes it fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at a younger age.
Uh-huh.
Like, how long has it been since Team 7 graduated?
I guess it's been like a month or two, so maybe, you know, maybe not really that much of a younger age.
Yeah, they're a whole month older now. It's totally different.
I mean, look, most of the time they're not taking the chunin exams when they're when they're 12, so it's fine. You know, they chose to do this, and that's different.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's I mean, you know, when we talk about like this, I guess our decision to destroy the village and the leaves is actually like, I mean, I think we come up looking pretty good there.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing actually. Plus, if you're not aligned with Orochimaru, where else in the fucking ninja world are you gonna get estrogen?
I don't know. I'll have to like consult the lore books to see if there's anywhere else that is listed as a source for estrogen in the ninja world. It might just be Orochimaru. We get like a few more moments of various characters interacting. Like this is a point where the anime is expanding from the manga a little bit, trying to like fill out these character dynamics a little bit more. We get the scene between Sakura and Ino where like Sakura's like, yeah, actually I'm really excited to go die in the woods with a boy, but you should back out, Ino. And Ino's like, no, you should back out actually, because you're gonna die because you suck so bad. And I feel like there are moments where the anime is genuinely trying to like build on something a little more dynamic, make it a little more fleshed out before these characters have their fight later in the arc. Because I think you know you kind of get the sense here that like, oh, they're they're kind of worried for each other, but neither of them want to back out on their own, and so I don't know. It's like a little bit sweet if you can look past the part where their entire relationship is filtered through how they feel about Sasuke.
Yeah.
Then we get another moment of Hinata approaching Naruto and being all shy, and Naruto's just like, man, this girl's weird. I don't know what's up with that. This is the kind of Naruto not knowing anything that I'm fine with. I'm fine with this kind with adding this kind of Naruto funny dumb guy moments.
Yeah, I like that Naruto. At least at this point, it's not like Naruto dislikes Hinata.
Mm-hmm.
He's just stupid.
Yeah, he just doesn't really have people liking him in his life. So it's not something he knows how to parse or identify.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I think I'm with you. I think it's kind of cute.
Yeah, like I think there is the foundation for like, you know, like a pretty cute relationship between these characters that you could build, or alternatively just kind of like let be taken for granted for the next several hundred chapters of your comic. It really depends on what you feel like doing. I guess who could say which path Masashi Kishimoto will take, but
well, one of the two was like really specific, so I'm thinking maybe it was. After all the teams have their scrolls, they head out to different gates, and all at once they set off into the forest. The Grass Ninja have it out for Team 7, Choji has a snack that almost gets his team found by a group of older kids, and Hinata, Kiba, and Shino lure some guys into leeches. Naruto ducks behind some bushes to pee, but he comes back acting kind of sus, so Sasuke decks him, and after a quick fight, reveals him to be an imposter.
So as everybody's rushing into the forest, we get this sequence of like we cut to each of the teams and like a character or two from each team. You know, we get a little bit of their internal monologues as we're going over this, and then we cut to Kabuto's team, and it's just fucking head empty over there. Nobody's got shit they're worried about. They're just gonna go into this forest.
Oh yeah,
and they're all running off. I think that the setup for this this forest test really feels kind of ambitious in the sense that there's a lot being put on the table. There are definitely more moving parts than have ever been at any point in like Naruto before this. You know, we've got the 4 different teams of like Leaf Ninja who are going in here. We've got or like, you know, they're actually characters that are going in here. We've got you know, we've got the Sound Trio, we've got the Sand Siblings, we've got we've got Orochimaru's team. There is in theory a lot of moving parts that could be there's definitely like an attempt to be taking on a lot, and I guess I'm curious to see how I feel about how well it manages all these things it's throwing into the air right now. Like I don't know if I feel perfectly confident that it's going to juggle all of them, but it is interesting to see it trying to like the past arc, like the past fights in this series were like, yeah, here are like 5 people on a bridge that are doing the fighting, and there's like 2 people standing slightly away, and like those 2 fights aren't interacting that much until like the end. And so this is definitely like an escalation in the amount of stuff that is being attempted.
Yeah, I don't remember too well about how this actually goes because, I haven't seen Naruto. I haven't seen this part of Naruto all that recently, moving forward. But I think my perfect version of this is just like mostly focus on one group of guys per episode.
Yeah, like you get like little like one-off vignettes of like, oh, here's what these guys are doing, and like maybe those like wind up colliding with each other. Like I can see that being really fun. It's definitely like, I think it's a pretty solid setup. Like I was feeling kind of hesitant going into this part of the arc, and I guess we'll see how we feel, because I think we've got like a couple more episodes of like this podcast just talking about the test in the forest. Mm-hmm. But like I think there's potential here, right? I think there's I do kind of like when you've got like a story where there's just a bunch of guys bouncing off of each other and like coming in and out of focus. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I want to say I fucking love how Hinata, Kiba, and Shino's group were like so psyched for this test. They're like, "Fuck yes, survival is our whole thing. We're gonna be so good at this. We're gonna be
so good at this." Shino's all about weird bugs. I guess Kiba could. I mean, I guess Kiba can use his dog instincts to find food. They're ready for it. And I also like that they immediately kill some people. Like, they don't directly kill those guys, but they left them in a net, like, 2 weeks to move, and there's leeches that can kill them in 5 minutes around. So, like, I'll give that to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing. Like, I feel like it gets played off because, again, it's not like any of them are directly taking a life with their own hands, but those guys aren't gonna... I don't think those guys are gonna make it 5 more days up in that net.
No.
I don't think those guys are gonna make it 10 more minutes up in that net, really.
Yeah, there's flying leeches around.
There's flying leeches around that can kill you in 5 minutes. Like it looks kind of like they killed the ones that got on them, but I don't think that's all the leeches. So
yeah,
so good at these kids, I guess, for taking lives.
You know what? If I'm being frank,
mm-hmm.
I think kind of like poor form, not offering a mercy killing. I think being tied up to leeches is a worse fate. Because, like, they had to, like, get up close and personal to search through their bags and pockets and stuff for the scroll, right?
Yeah, so I guess maybe they just come back in, like, 5 minutes. And, like we don't see that, but I assume, they do something like that.
Or it is safe to assume that a squad of 3 shinobi can get themselves out of a net, and it was just to hold them off for long enough for their group to get away. I can believe in the version of this where those kids get out fine.
Right, but like, why are they standing around setting up an obvious trap to like lure people in so they can then get away from the people? I think those guys are dead. I'm just choosing to believe this.
I think there was an unseen part where like Shino went up there and threw the net while they were all like stunned, went through all their bags and stuff and took the scroll.
Okay, and they'll be fine. You think you're choosing to believe?
Yeah, I believe in a minute or so they'll like get enough movement back in their bodies that they can cut themselves out and like, I don't know, start looking for someone else to jump.
You've chosen to believe in the good in the hearts of Team 8.
Yeah, because they wouldn't do it for no reason.
They're doing it to pass the test. That's fine. This is how the test works.
Okay.
We cut back to. I mean, there's a bit with Shikamaru, Choji, and but there's not really much to talk about there because it's just the joke of Choji eats, and
Yeah, Choji's so funny and conveniences his friends.
Yeah, and that's nothing really to dwell on there. And then we cut over to Team 7. And we like Sasuke like decks Naruto in the face after he realizes he's fake. And then like this kind of spirals out into like a fight between the two of them for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of of two minds about this fight, because I think there's like a couple bits where it's like, oh yeah, they're like bouncing off the trees as they chase after each other, and it's like some of that staging is all right, but also there's a few times where it just like cuts to like an extreme close up on Sasuke's face, and then he's just like somewhere else, and it makes the actual action kind of difficult to read.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I can't not worry about it. I look at it and I've like lost track of like there's a specific bit I'm thinking about where like they're like Sasuke and the fake Naruto have their kunais clash as they're like holding them, and like it cuts into like Sasuke's face very abruptly, and then like it's a different shot, and then like Sasuke is behind the fake Naruto, and it just like I just didn't have a very good sense of the visual continuity of the scene at some points in this.
Yeah, it is pretty messy.
Yeah, I mean, Sasuke reveals the imposter. I think that's about like all I have to say on this episode, really. I'm like, because the next episode just goes like directly into like this scene again. So,
episode 28: Eat or be eaten. Panic in the forest. The imposter reverts to his true form, and Naruto's tied up behind the bushes. Sasuke throws a knife that cuts Naruto's rope so he can work himself out. Sasuke and the imposter trade kunai, but he backs off once Naruto makes it into the fray. Not ready to let him off easy, Sasuke does a cool trick with his wall-walking chakra control and whips a knife at the imposter with his foot, and follows up behind for a good stab. With that, the imposter takes to the trees to flee. Not wanting to have to deal with any more of that bullshit, Sasuke comes up with a password to recite whenever they get separated. Naruto doesn't catch it, and they're immediately confronted by Tongue Lady, Orochimaru, and the Grass Ninja friends.
So something that you didn't mention in your summary is that this episode like is a continuation of the scene with Sasuke and the fake Naruto, who is actually Oboro, who's like a village in the rain ninja, I think.
Yeah.
What it starts with is like once it gets to that point, like, rather than playing animation from the previous episode, that bit is like completely reanimated.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more like concise. It's like closer to beat for beat closer to the manga. It doesn't like drag that bit out, and so like rather than having the fight, it's just like Sasuke like punches Naruto, the fake Naruto. The fake Naruto is flying back into a tree. Sasuke identifies the imposter. And I was kind of trying to figure out why this is, because it seemed kind of weird to me at the time. I think I have some idea of like what it's doing in the specific context of this episode. I should also say this episode is storyboarded and directed by Masahiko Murata, who I talked about a bit before. He did like the first episode of the Land of Waves arc, where they get attacked by the Demon Brothers. Do you remember the Demon Brothers?
Of course I remember the Demon Brothers. I mentioned them later.
Okay. Yeah. Again, Murata is like an interesting director who I don't think is quite at full power yet, but I think that like I think there is some purpose in like making sure to specifically frame the scene and the terms he's trying to do for this episode, and I think that they'll get into later, and yeah, but like from there, once we get past the beats that are covered in the previous episode, we're like we continue forward with the fight. I think that I think this like brief fight between Sasuke and Oboro is like there's a lot of like really appealing bits of animation. It flows super well. I think it's like an interesting case study, and like it is very directly like beat for beat. This is basically exactly how the fight goes in the manga. There's not a lot of like diverging from or like expanding on the source material. It is just it is justified as is in the manga, with like enough smart changes to the framing and like enough little interstitial beats that make it still flow really well in terms of how it looks in the anime.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like I think this is like a cool little fight. Like it's pretty.
Yeah, I like Sasuke's knife trick.
The knife trick is cool. Like you get the cool sound when like he catches the kunai beneath his foot and like really he like hacks it backwards. It's just
yeah.
It's like cool. It's like a tight little action scene. It doesn't like it's not drawn out. It's like it does what it needs to do. It gets in and it gets out.
I am a little bit curious about what like knife trick accomplished besides like next to Sasuke just like throwing a kunai in that situation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's
I know. Don't worry about it. It was cool.
Don't worry about it. It's cool. He got Oboro to use up his one air dodge, so he's vulnerable for Sasuke charging in.
Mm-hmm. Also, can I say something about this?
Yeah.
Like
what do you gotta say?
For the dub.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, what's his name? Oboro.
Oboro, yeah.
He has like a little bit of a muffle going on in like the Japanese voice because like he has like the gas mask, right?
Yeah.
In the dub, he's like way like tinned out like radio voice.
Oh.
like, it sounds fine. It sounds good, right? Like, that's a cool way for, like, a guy with, like, a face covering to sound, I guess. It's just kind of like a drastic difference for I don't know why.
Somebody just wanted to, like, make a cool, like, tinned out radio voice.
Yeah.
Didn't have much else going on right now. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put some post-processing on this bad boy. It's gonna be sick.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah. And then we get we get the real Naruto coming back. We get Sasuke talking about the password. I think it's kind of interesting to think about look at how Sasuke is making his password that's like too complicated for Naruto to remember on purpose. Because like there's a few variations in how different like translations of this like approach it. Like the subs that I'm using, and I think we have the same subs. Is like, you know, he mentions this is like a ninja poem or like a ninja song, ninja chants, right?
Yeah.
And like so presumably it's like it's like I mean, I don't know if this is like a poem that he's making some specific variation on that exists like already, or like a or just like a specific part of it that he's referring to, you know, if it's just like some shared touchstone. But like presumably there's like more, there's like some context to it. And the translation for the manga, it takes the same tack, but it makes it rhyme, which is
the dub made it rhyme too.
Oh yeah, that's it's like a cute little touch. Like I guess I wasn't actually listening closely enough to be sure it rhymed in the original Japanese text, but I guess there's like an expectation of what a poem is like, or like what a song is like when a character is saying that they have a poem or a song they're reciting. But I guess makes sense to like make that choice for the English audience.
Yeah, I mean, like it definitely makes it easier to remember. Anything else you want to talk about here? Are you ready to move on?
I'm ready to move on.
After dodging the grass ninja's big wind blast, Sasuke is approached by Sakura. He has her recite the password. Naruto comes in soon after and recites the password, but Sasuke knows something is up, so he hooks a knife at Naruto, revealing him to be another imposter, the tongue lady, Orochimaru. Meanwhile, Naruto has a run-in with a giant snake and gets swallowed. Tongue lady, Orochimaru, swallows her earth scroll and hits Sasuke and Sakura with a wave of bloodlust that leaves them both shaken. Sasuke stabs himself in the leg to clear his head and get himself and Sakura out of danger. Naruto uses Shadow Clone Jutsu to explode the snake. Sasuke and Sakura are still being chased by the tongue lady, Orochimaru, when Naruto shows up, saying he forgot the password.
Okay. So I guess the first thing I'll talk about here briefly is like, I mentioned the last episode being on a quest for the biggest randos in Naruto. I don't, or like the characters that nobody else like calls to mind and brings up again. And like I'm trying to figure out the parameters of this, because if we count characters that don't have names, then maybe these like...
No, we absolutely do not count characters that don't have names.
Okay, it has to be named characters that like show up once, like originate from the manga, and
like don't die right away.
Don't die right away. So these guys are excluded by the fact that they are both, somebody is disguised as these guys and they're already dead, and also Orochimaru just tells them to fuck off. I don't think we ever see them again.
Wait, Ruby.
Yeah.
That's us.
No. Oh my god. We're in the anime. We made it.
We made it.
Which of us is wearing the loincloth that says crime?
Me.
Okay.
Obviously. You know I saw that loincloth called Dibs.
Thought it was really funny.
It is really funny.
You're right. Yeah, Naruto just gets blasted off and gets eaten by a snake. So bad time for that kid. He's removed from the scene for now. We cut back to Sasuke, and this is kind of where I start to think about like what Masako Murado's doing by like specifically structuring this episode such that we get the we get Sasuke recognizing the imposter again at the top of the episode in a much more concise way, which is that like, I mean, at the start of the episode we see Sasuke, he's like in top form. He recognized the imposter right away. He fucking like owns him in a fight. He's like, you know, even when he's on the back foot, he gets back in control of the situation. And here he's like, we get Sasuke like very ready to do the same thing again, right? Like his password trick worked great. Like the fake Naruto remembers the password, and he's like, oh, Naruto wouldn't do that, so you're fake. And he's ready to like pull it through again, and just immediately goes terrible for him. We do get some fun Orochimaru being a freak, both with swallowing the scroll, but also like right before unleashing the wave of bloodlust, just puts his finger in his eye. It's fucked up. Why does it do that? I don't like it.
Let the bloodlust out.
It's contained, like right below the eyeball.
Yeah, I mean, like you can't just like have it going at all times, or like everybody you meet will just like
Everybody you meet will just have like a really stylistically striking vision of themselves being like torn apart by like the force of your like willingness to kill them.
yeah, you can't just let that happen all the time, or it won't be as cool when you do it.
Yeah, I think that Masaki Murata as a director at this point in Naruto, like I don't know if I don't know where he's at in his career, like in comparison to like other shit he's worked on in this time. If this specific show is one where he is more restrained than usual, or if in general he's still kind of developing his ideas. Like a lot of this episode is kind of more restrained than how I think of a lot of his work, like even on the show will be. But there are definitely some moments like this one where Orochimaru is unleashing the wave of bloodlust, where and like the whole screen just goes like this heavy orange tint, and like these really like striking ominous shots of like Sakura and Sasuke being like kind of torn apart. Is like it's just immediately recognizable. It's like, oh, okay, this is like a Masaki Murata ass shot. This is like very much. This is very much very identifiably his work, which I think is always cool to see.
That it just looks so good.
It looks very good.
The way it like the way it like leaves it, the way it like ends it with like the kunai in both of their heads, and then they like shocks back to reality like in that same position. It's so good.
Yeah, it's really executing this idea very well. I think it's doing a great job with that, and yeah, so I think it also like works very well. Like, you know, like I said, we had Sasuke like at top of his game at the start of the episode, and then like this happens, and he's just a fucking wreck for the rest of it.
Yeah,
which is I think it makes it very striking when like suddenly shit is going bad for him, because we saw him, he's like a competent kid, and now there's like a monster freak who's trying to kill him.
Yeah, who's like, you know, to be fair. Mm-hmm. Like the main bad guy in this like big stretch of the anime.
Yeah. Like this is like a big deal. This is like a big first impression. Like I think like Orochimaru's success in making a very strong first impression here by like I think that let me take another run at that. I think that this is like doing a very good job of making a strong first impression for Orochimaru, because like he's just immediately set opposite. Like he here's the kind of shit that a kid like Sasuke is able to handle and is expected to be able to handle right now, and here's the kind of shit that a kid like Sasuke is gonna get fucked up by.
Yeah, right. Like here's the kind of shit that a kid like Sasuke can't fucking look at in the eyes right now.
Mm-hmm. And so I think all of the all the stuff with Sasuke is like really really compelling in this episode. A lot of the stuff with Naruto, less so. We get a lot of shots of Naruto inside of the snake. I don't like it.
He's just in the snake too much.
We keep cutting back to him in the snake. We get his, you know, he's like imagining himself, like, he's like wondering what will happen if he dies here in this snake, and in between, like, shots of him, like, surrounded by, like, fucking snake innards, and it's terrible. I don't want this to be happening anymore, and it keeps happening.
No, it's like, it's just yucky.
It's yucky. It feels a little perverse. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know if that was the intent, or if this is just like, oh, well, unfortunately, culture on the internet has happened. But like,
yeah, right. Like, could they have known that Vor was a thing? Like
it's possible. I don't know.
I guess
it's hard to know if somebody thought they were getting away with something when they were drawing this, or if like it just kind of coincidentally turned out this way.
Like, it feels like too much of a coincidence to be an accident, but also, like, when this was made, I'm like, maybe it was an accident.
We just don't know. But it's okay. Naruto explodes the snake. We're done with that. We don't have to think about it ever again.
Yeah, Naruto.
He shows back up. It's great. Like, it's a great moment for him. Again, like, it's...
I think it's really cute how, like, earlier when, like, Sasuke was like, wait, Sakura, this is imposter. Think about it. What would Naruto be saying right now?
Naruto's almost like, hey, I forgot the password.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's great. And it's also like, I mean, I talked about that when we're talking about the opening, that sort of repeating visual of like Naruto being this guy who like shows up and kind of blows away this like oppressive atmosphere, and it's like very directly like this is like very like something that's in the show. Like this is what makes Naruto like a cool guy. He shows up and he like dispels that tension, and he's like there for his friends, and it's great. Love that kid.
It rules. All right, man, I feel like we're blasting through it, but you ready to go to the next episode?
Yeah, sure.
All right, fuck yeah. Episode 29, Naruto's counterattack. Never give in. Sasuke's feeling way in over his head and offers his scroll to the snake lady, Orochimaru, in return for their lives, but Naruto intercepts and punches Sasuke, refusing to believe that he'd be that much of a coward. Tongue Lady starts summoning another snake, and Naruto rushes her, but gets blown away in a gust of snake wind. Outside the forest, the corpses of the 3 grass ninja are found without faces, including Snake Lady. Anko recognizes this as the work of that man, Orochimaru, and heads off into the forest to intercept.
I think it is a great classic shonen protagonist thing for Naruto to see Sasuke being like, okay, I'm just going to give you the scroll, leave us alone, and be like, what the fuck are you doing, man? This is lame. Sasuke would do this. Sasuke is cool. Love Naruto here. Naruto's great.
It's so funny.
It's so funny. It's like, I don't think the punch in this episode looks particularly good. It feels kind of weightless. This is kind of a running theme with this episode, but like...
Yeah, what's really funny to me about this is that, like, Naruto's talking about, like, imposter stuff, but he's the only one who's been, like, he's the only one that's been in an imposter. He hasn't been around for, like, the sussing out of imposters, right?
Yeah, like this isn't like something he's trying to turn back on Sasuke as I don't know, like a way to get back for like trying to attack people. Look at him. He's just like, this is obviously a fake Sasuke. I'm gonna get his ass.
Yeah.
He just believes in his bro. It's beautiful. You know, Orochimaru summons the snake in response to Naruto's arrival, and I think I noticed here, and this is like consistent with the manga, is that like Orochimaru is standing on a tree, and the tree just explodes when he summons the snake. Like he just insta-gives the tree with the snake. It's I guess it works like that.
Telefrag, yeah, that's normal. I think
it's normal. We've learned this about the mechanics of summoning. You could summon like a small dog into a guy's heart, and you'd be fucked.
Kakashi, don't.
Don't get any ideas.
No, I don't think Kakashi would do that to his dog.
Yeah, I feel like you really gotta let the dog know if you're doing that kind of shit.
That's got to be like in the conditions of the contract, and no dog would sign that. Snake, however, Snake would blow up fucking anything.
Yeah, snakes are like, yeah, that sounds fucking badass. Let's go. Snakes are the sickos of the animal summoning world.
God, I'm imagining like a snake that's small enough to be inside the heart, but not like hurt it super directly, right? So
just like, I got a snake around your heart, so fucking watch what you're doing. Watch what you say to me.
Yeah, right. As like an interrogation thing, right? Ah, that's scary. I don't like it.
Anyway, I hope Orochimaru can't do that. I don't want that to happen. I hope there's not a snake around my heart right now.
Yeah, we can't talk to him about this. We can't release this episode.
We can't give any ideas. It's okay. He won't listen to this. They don't have the internet. They don't have podcasts right now.
Yeah. I think it's fine if Boruto version of Orochimaru hears this.
He's really chilled out by then. So he'll be like, oh yeah, he'll like hear like, that's pretty funny. Don't worry about it. Yeah, and we cut over to Anko. Anko is doing one of her bits of eating a lot of dango, which is you know, I mean, that's, I guess it's like foreshadowing of like her eventually in Boruto becoming like the 5th fat character who eats a lot character in the franchise. But you know, for now, I guess it's just something she's doing. You know, she gets called over to like to find some corpses of like ninja who are supposed to be taking this exam. The thing I'm kind of curious about here is like in both the anime and the manga, they talk a lot about how fucked up this looks and how scary this looks. And in the anime, I totally believe, like, yeah, you know, broadcast regulations would mean you probably like ease this off. Like a lot of the more severe violence in the manga gets toned down. But even in the manga, we don't see whatever like fucked up things happen to these guys' faces. And I have to wonder if Masashi Kishimoto just backed down from drawing it, or if his editor was like, hey, don't put that in a children's magazine.
Yeah, don't draw that. Hey,
don't draw that. That's gross.
I think it would be funny if it was just skeleton faces.
You can't show skulls. It's too scary. Masashi Kishimoto's editor in specific hates skulls. He's like, no, take it away.
No.
I don't know. Like, I don't have a ton more to say about that scene. It's like, you know, it's a stake setting for what happens next. We get a little more hinting that, like, you know, Akko has some like history with Orochimaru, which we'll get into more like next week probably. But
all right, so move on.
Yeah, sure.
Naruto slams against a tree and gets angry with Fox Chakra, then starts beating the shit out of the giant snake. This is the first time Sasuke and Sakura see Naruto go apeshit, so they're taken aback. Tongue Lady knocks Naruto out of the air with a fireball and goes for Sasuke, but Naruto intercepts, catching the snake by the nose and stopping it in its tracks. Naruto calls Sasuke a scaredy cat as a callback to when Naruto froze up against those Mist Ninja with the chains. Tongue Lady breaks them up by grabbing Naruto with her tongue and recognizes Naruto as having the nine-tailed fox inside of him. She uses a sealing jutsu to lock away the fox chakra, weakening Naruto and grabbing the scroll before tossing him aside. Sasuke remembers his revenge quest and resolves himself to take on the Tongue Lady.
Okay, yeah, so we get into the bulk of the fighting in this episode, and it really is a shame to say that it just doesn't look very good at all. Because there's like two separate problems going on, and one is that like pretty much all of the animation feels kind of weightless.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit where like Naruto with the fox chakra goes and like kicks the snake in the face, and it just kind of like bobs back a tiny bit, and there's like no real like feedback on the hit, and that's just like, I think that's very representative of how the action looks in this to me. And there's also a sense of like it's just not like staged particularly clearly or well. Like it's like the big thing to me there is like, I mean, there's a scene where Naruto gets sent flying, right? And like the first shot is like he is falling away from the camera, and like it looks like he's falling down, right? Because of the way the shot is angled, but also the fact that the background is like going down to like, I don't know, I assume like kind of the dark of the forest floor.
Yeah.
And then like the next shot is him like flying up and into a branch, and like from the following shots, it's like pretty easy to tell like, oh yeah, he was supposed to be falling up there, but like he didn't really look like it just feels like this really like sudden and jarring switch of like the direction of movement between those two shots.
Yeah, and like it really doesn't help that the whole thing takes place in like a branch void.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, you know, it's not, it's it does kind of make like Naruto unleashing his fox chakra, you're like feel kind of like it's not sold particularly well by this episode, and like a lot of the heavy lifting is being done by like the previous episode where we like came to understand that Orochimaru here in this situation is a threat. And so okay, by being able to stand in the way of that, like narratively, then Naruto is also like strong here, but the actual visuals of the episode are they're doing basically none of that lifting.
Yeah. And like when Naruto's beating up the snake, it's a lot of like Naruto almost like floating in place, just like pummeling the snake, and then the snake not reacting all that much.
Yeah, and then we like cut to a bunch of like logs floating upwards.
Yeah, it's
just kind of a bummer, you know, like.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, we've had episodes where like, oh yeah, there's some fighting and it's like pretty plain looking, but it ultimately gets the point across. And I think this is the first like action episode where it's just like, oh, I feel like the actual things that are happening are not being conveyed all that clearly, in addition to like, you know, like it can't be like a super flashy show every week, but
totally.
I mean, like even like the kind of poor delivery I don't think can really like ruin the moment where like how Naruto gets to like turn around like calling a Sasuke a scaredy cat. Like I think that still works as like a character beat. Yeah,
and I do think it's cool how Naruto stopped that big snake.
Yeah. I think that's like, I mean, it helps. This is a visual that works well as like a still image, because you can have Naruto after the snake has been stopped, like just sort of standing in front of it by like a splintered tree branch. Like you can communicate that one pretty clearly without like a ton of movement, and that is definitely to the benefit of this episode.
Oh yeah.
I think I think that's a fun moment for Naruto to have. I think it's like it's also cool to see him like using the fox chakra in a way that is like a little more composed than the last time it happened.
Oh yeah. Like last time it was like spilling out of him, and he like grew claws and stuff.
Yeah, but like even beyond like the physical, it's like oh yeah, he's not just like oh yeah, this is still like Naruto, right? Like he's still like talking and stuff. He's still like
yeah,
like it's fun to see the different ways that can manifest, and I think leaning at that is like something that Naruto does pretty well.
Can we talk about when Sasuke was like remembering that he wants to kill his brother?
Mm-hmm.
The Itachi that we saw
about how he looks bald.
Why is he bald?
You also noticed this. He does look very bald.
Why did they make him bald?
I don't know, because like It's because like there's like parts of the design that are clearly there. Because you've got like lines under his eyes. That's like, oh yeah, that's Itachi's face. But then he's bald also.
Did Sasuke just figure he'd be bald by now?
He's like so old now. I have to kill Itachi before I'm too old and bald to do it. I've only got like 12. I've only got like 8 years.
He's like, yeah, Sasuke's like, okay, he abandoned the village. What's the first thing you do when you abandon a village? Shave your head.
Yeah, I mean, in the manga, in the scene, right? Like you get like a pretty vague outline of Itachi. So, and I can see how you could look at it and then go like, oh, okay, maybe he's bald. Like if you look a little closely, you can also see that he's got you can see a bit of like implication if he's got hair and isn't just bald. Here's the image I'm talking about from the manga. I'll probably also put the bald Itachi from the anime when I'm like posting the images we talk about here.
Yeah.
But like, this isn't all they had to go on when they like by the time of this episode, thinking about like the production schedule, maybe it was a little tighter. But like Itachi had shown up in the manga by now.
Yeah.
So that they could probably at least know that he wasn't bald. Is all I'm saying.
It's so funny that he's bald.
But like on Sasuke beats that aren't about how he thinks Itachi is bald now. I think that I think that there's like some pretty solid like laying the tracks for like, hey, here's where Sasuke as a character is going to go. I think this is like I think the moment of him seeing Naruto actually like be strong with the Nine-Tailed Fox chakra because he was like unconscious last time, and like just be like, ah shit, oh fuck, I'm not the strong one here anymore. Is like, I mean, yeah, this is like a fairly standard way to like establish like and like complicate the rival dynamic, but I think it's but I think like between the previous episode and this one, I think we're getting like we're getting a very clear picture of like what will lead Sasuke to feel like he's not strong enough without relying on some outside sources for power. So I think that like on that level at least, you know, this forest test is doing what it intends to very cleanly.
Yeah, for sure. It is very easy to see like a through line from like where Sasuke is at the end of this episode to some decisions he makes a little bit later.
Yeah, like 100 episodes from now, right? Like it's
yeah.
I think that is like setting aside any concerns about the actual like structure of the plotting. I think the emotional through line of like, you know, like what Sasuke is being driven by is like very. I think it's very clear that it was like considered and like there's definitely something that was like very clearly in mind at this stage. I'm happy to see that.
Yeah. All right. So I guess those are our episodes this week. What are we watching next week?
Next week, we're kicking things off with a bang with episode 30, which I'm very excited to talk about. And then we're also watching episodes 31 and 32, which, you know, we'll probably have a fine time with, but I'm a little less excited about those.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to support the show, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/KonohaCrush, all one word. And if you want to see any of the images we talked about this episode, you can check out our Twitter at KonohaCrush, all one word. Later, and remember, there's no such thing as filler.